Well, guys, nothing in life's ever really guaranteed, and that includes getting into Thailand or getting into the country you're trying to get into. And Thailand right now is kind of putting some tourists through it in a random kind of fashion. So we'll talk a little bit about kind of what my friends have gone through, what I went through this last time I went to Thailand. Today I'm coming to you from the beautiful city of Dalat, Vietnam, after spending 5 weeks in Thailand and bringing my dad here with me to Dalat. So it was an interesting trip. I was sick, but anyway, so whenever I came into Thailand this last time, things were a little bit different at the immigration checkpoint. And I had a young man who was checking through my passport and was asking me a lot of questions, right? Whether I had my ticket out of Thailand, which I've never had to have before, but if you've followed me, I have mentioned quite a few times that it's a good idea to have an onward ticket, which you can get at onwardticket.com for $12. If you don't know when you're going to leave Thailand, then when you enter, you need to have that kind of onward ticket to show them that you plan to leave the country, right? So I did not have that this time when they were asking. I did not have that this time when they were asking for it, and it caused a little bit of problem because of how many times I've been to Thailand in the past couple of years. So I've been to Thailand about 8 times in the past year. Not about 8 times, I've been to Thailand 8 times in the past 2 years. This year, however, this was my 3rd time in. The other 2 times I was only there for 1 week and I think 5 days. The other 2 times, and outside of that I had spent 90 days in Vietnam twice. So by pointing that out and showing that I wasn't living in Thailand and kind of abusing the visa, the short-term visa-free options, I was able to kind of get in this time without the onward ticket. But they are watching like a hawk, because I had 2 friends that, and that's what this story is about, is 2 friends who got denied entry. And it was only their 3rd time in Thailand. And they tried to say that they were coming too often. The other 2 times they came in for their 60-day visa free and had a 30-day extension. So they had been there, 180 days. Previously, and when they leave, they left for maybe a couple of weeks. So this 3rd time they took them into a room with about a dozen other people, all nationalities, all different countries of origin, and really got personal with them. It's a boyfriend, girlfriend, and one of them is like 30 years old and she's still in college, and they were asking her, why are you still in college? Why are you guys living together and you're not married? Let me see your bank account. So they checked all the boxes. They didn't have anything that they did that was wrong. They had their ticket out of the country already for the next time, but none of that really mattered. It was kind of like they had decided these people are not coming in the country. Let's find a reason why. And just let me explain to you real quick. Thailand is one of the most gracious places for people being able to come in for long term, so I don't want to make this sound like Thailand has a big problem with letting people in. It's actually one of the easier places to get in and stay for a while, but they do have year-long visas for a reason. And if you're trying to live there full time and you're trying to do that by piecing together a bunch of short-term visas, so you're coming in for 60 days, 90 days, you're leaving for a border run, for 1 day and coming back, or you're leaving for a weekend and coming back, then they'll see that you're basically living in Thailand, right? So these short-term visas are meant more for are meant more for tourists, right? And if you decide you're staying there longer term, what's the reason? So Thailand likes that to be because you're getting education visa, so you're learning Thai. or you're learning how to do Thai massage, you're learning the cooking, you're learning Muay Thai, you're learning one of these things that's uniquely Thailand, and that's what these 1-year visas are for, or they have retirement visas for people over the age of 50. So when this happens, and by the way, tons of people use the system this way, and Thailand doesn't have a limit specified legally. So what happens is every checkpoint in whatever city you come into is kind of managed at the local level. So they can kind of determine when, how, and who they give extra scrutiny to. And so, you're just not guaranteed. You don't have a right to just come into anybody's country. You don't have rights. You're a visitor. They can deny anybody for any reason, just like any country can, right? So, but it does throw a little bit of a wrinkle in that there's not specifics on how often you can use these visas without getting flagged, right? So a lot of tourists, these people, they're very well-meaning, well-behaved, they're good people, good tourists. So they were denied entry into Thailand. They were held in a room overnight. They could have gotten into a place with a bed, but they would have had to have paid 1,000 baht a piece, which is about $30. And so they did not do that because they also had to get sent back to Vietnam, which is where they were flying back into Thailand from after being there for about 10 days. So the problem is that when they filled out their Vietnam visa originally, they filled it out and gave them the day that they were coming back to Thailand. So their visa to Vietnam had expired. And if you want to pay for an expedited visa for 2 hours or something like that, there is a way to do that, and it costs around $200 a piece. They had already done that, long story, before to get to Vietnam in the first place. And so they weren't wanting to pay that again. So they were just getting sent back to Vietnam. They had to pay their own ticket back, of course. And so then they get to Vietnam, and Vietnam won't let them in because their visa had already expired. They didn't have a visa to stay there. They had applied for another visa, but it was going to take another 3 to 5 working days to get that finished. So they're stuck now in the Vietnam airport. Oh, and by the way, Thailand didn't let them fly out of the airport to wherever they wanted. They sent them back to the country of origin. So they didn't have a choice to go to Malaysia or something like that from Thailand. They had to go back to where they came from. And so when they got to Vietnam allowed them to book a flight to another location, right? So they booked a flight then to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, where they stayed for about 3 or 4 days, and then came across a land border in South Thailand with no questions asked other than the onward ticket, right? So rule number 1, onward ticket. Always have that. Rule number 2 is be prepared to not get accepted if you've been frequenting Thailand on these short-term stays, these visa-free, visa exemption stays. Because a little preparation, even the preparation of having your Vietnam visa last longer than just the day that you're going to leave, leaving a little early so that if you get sent back to Vietnam, you can actually get back in the country. Having it as a multiple stay visa to get into Vietnam, which is $50 instead of $25, but it allows you multiple entries into the country in that 90-day period. These are things that you can do. You spend a little extra money, but it can save you a lot of grief if you end up in a bad place like they were. But they were allowed right back into Thailand through a different border, and there was no issue, right? So the place they were trying to get into that rejected them was Bangkok. The place that I tried to get into where they really questioned me a lot was Chiang Mai. But some of these smaller places, your land border to the south, maybe Phuket or Krabi, where it's a smaller area and they welcome and invite and live and die by tourism. Maybe they're not going to be as picky, but it could be, 1 day or 1 month they scrutinize in this location and another they scrutinize in this. So you're probably going to find a lot of people right now kind of getting their denial into Thailand. So if you've been following my channel, I live permanently between 2 countries, Vietnam and Thailand. So this is currently, we are in October. I got in to Thailand. I went there in September. Since January, like I said, I'd only been in Thailand for 11 days. But the first thing they told me was that I was coming there too often. And so I had to point out, yeah, look, over the last year, I've been here this amount of time, so I'm not abusing that system. And so then they asked for the onward ticket. I also told them I was coming to see my dad, and I didn't know exactly when I was going to leave, but I was going to leave with him. And we wanted to make sure we let him see all of his doctors first, which is all true. I'm not, don't get in there and lie, but make your case as to why it would be bad if you weren't, allowed in. Another thing, keep your cool, right? You're not, like I said, you don't have any rights. You need to make sure you recognize that. So because the Thai officials, they definitely recognize that. So if you come in acting like you're owed something, or you get frustrated easily, maybe you should let somebody else do most of the talking, right? But anyway, this is just a cautionary tale that, if you're living between two countries, you need to give each country a break from you, probably. Vietnam right now, they are wanting the tourism, so I haven't heard any problems with people getting into Vietnam. Another thing with Vietnam is you're already approved for a visa before you show up. I don't know if that matters. I've never been questioned coming into Vietnam, so I don't know if there are any issues. If you guys have run into anything, let me know. But this is a very important cautionary tale, because the next time I leave Vietnam, maybe I do need to leave, for a month. I definitely, if I got to where I couldn't get back into Vietnam, that would kill me. Not literally, but I've got a life in Vietnam, and that's where I stay, the majority of my time. So I'm going to sprinkle in a third country. Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia is going to be kind of my destination airport, so Malaysia is going to be sprinkled in there if I need to stay somewhere for a month. But this next time, I am going to not go to Thailand. I'm going to give Thailand a break this time, so that I don't have any problems the time after. So this living between two countries business that I have, sometimes you may need to throw that third country in there just to give a break, so that they don't open up your passport and the only thing you ever have in there is Thailand, right? So anyway, drop any comments or questions if you've had some issues at the border here even recently, or we can all learn from what you have to say and what you have to share. So appreciate you guys joining me today, Global Red, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.